What's up, basement dwellers? I am on the set of Tome. Listen, I know for a fact that mental health is important to you. You wouldn't even be a basement dweller if it wasn't. There's a lot of stuff that we talk about on the basement that is cool, but I want you to be able to focus in, push all the distractions aside, and just be able to focus in on what it is to have peace of mind. So with that in mind, this course is for you. As you go through this process, you are going to come out on the other side freer than you've ever been in your life. So I just need you to get it. I don't care if you got to stop drinking coffee. I don't care if you have to turn off Peacock for a month along with Disney Plus. Invest in yourself. Don't just invest in other people's company. Invest in you. And investing in you, you're going to be the freest version of you've ever seen in your life. This is something that is exclusive to my basement dwellers. If you use the code BASEMENT on the Tome app, you'll get 15% off all the content. I need you to go to thepeaceofmindcourse.com. We're about to roll, about to jump into another episode, but before we do that, thank you for investing in yourself and getting peace of mind. Welcome to The Basement, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Tim Ross. I hope you guys are all doing well. Listen, I cannot tell you how excited I am for today's guest. That's how excited I am that I can't even say guest the right way, right? I can't even say guest correctly. I'm so excited for today's guest. I want to give a shout out to our press bees. I want to give a shout out to our dwellers. I want to give a shout out to our promoters, everybody that makes this pod possible. Your support through Cash App, through PayPal, y'all are going crazy. Your generosity is beyond me, and I don't even know what to do with it. But thank you for being a part in any way that you're a part. Y'all, my guest today is a New York Times best-selling author, former FBI hostage negotiator, and one of my mentors by proxy. You don't even know that. The one and the only Chris Voss is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go! Chris, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Pleasure's mine. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, listen, I was so excited that we were going to have the opportunity to talk because I got your book and read it in 2019, Never Split the Difference.
Right.
And that book literally changed my life. I know people think everything's life-changing and the most epic thing. We use these hyperboles a lot and use a lot of words out of context. But your word that you gave, tactical empathy, and the writing of this book, Never Split the Difference, was a huge catalyst for me. I started with what was at the time the gold standard, Getting to Yes.
Right, yeah.
And I read Getting to Yes, and it didn't click with me.
Right.
It was too heady. I thought, man, I don't think I'm smart enough to get people to get to a yes. I got through the whole book. It was great. But then I read Never Split the Difference, and I'm not saying that it is the anti Getting to Yes book, but you introduced this concept of getting to know.
Yeah.
And I was forever changed. So I just want to start with you. I wanted to introduce you to our audience because you have something significant to give us. I know that many of you will and should go out and get the book, but to hear from you personally is always beautiful, and the origin story is always dynamic. And so could you just give us the backstory on you?
Well, let's see. Originally, small town Midwestern guy. Son of Richard and Joyce Voss, Mount Pleasant, Iowa, town of 7,000 people.
Wow.
Grew up in an entrepreneurial environment, sort of a can-do environment. My dad is an entrepreneur, sole proprietorship of a very blue-collar company, delivered gas and fuel oil, kind of the middleman Shell Oil company to the end users. But his attitude was, in reference to his kids, I'm paying for your room and board. You're gonna work.
Yep.
So and very figure it out attitude. I get a list of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
Yeah.
And my father was the kind of guy that would never ask you to do anything he wouldn't do himself. And there wasn't anything beneath him. If it needed to get done, it needed to get done. Didn't matter what it was. So grew up with that attitude. Sent my son out there a lot as he was growing up. My son Brandon has the same can-do attitude. Get it done, work hard. So then wanted to be a cop. Became a cop in Kansas City. I'd seen a movie when I was a teenager called The Super Cops. And 2 New York City police officers that were wildly innovative, and the community loved them. And I also didn't realize at the time, as mavericks, they really didn't pay any attention to what their bosses told them to do. And I realized that in hindsight now that appealed to me. When I was with the FBI, looking back on it, I would describe myself as a loose cannon that always hit the target.
Wow.
And so I had bosses that were, if they were comfortable with not knowing 1,000% what I was up to at all times, but they would never be surprised badly. Me and my colleagues, we made cases. We thought of ourselves as entrepreneurs. We went out and we made cases. We made great cases. And when my son also is very much like me.
Very much like you.
Yeah, huge.
Down to the voice, man. I mean, it's almost like, how did this dude get your vocal cords? The cadence of his speech, everything.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And, a couple years ago, I'm like, because he's running the company, he runs the Black Swan Group. Black Swan Group wouldn't be what it is without him having built it, helped build it up, built it.
Yeah.
But one day, a couple years ago, I'm thinking, like, this dude's not telling me what he's doing. I don't know what the hell's going on. Why am I being kept in the dark? And then I realized that he was exactly like me. So I sent my old boss, Gary Nessner, a text saying, my son is exactly like me. I owe you an apology.
Yep.
He texts back, well, you always made me proud. So, but anyway, cop, my father had higher aspirations for me, as fathers do. When he realized I wasn't going to leave law enforcement, he encouraged me to go federal. Didn't know one federal agency from another the FBI was hiring. He originally got me interested in the Secret Service. A friend of his was a member of the Secret Service, and this guy told me, he says, I've traveled all over the world with Secret Service. And I grew up in a small town in Iowa. Like, I hadn't been anywhere.
Yeah.
I crossing the Mississippi River was a big deal for me.
Right, exactly.
So, going into the next state. Wow, that's foreign travel.
Right.
So I thought, wow, that sounds cool. Secret Service wasn't hiring, the FBI was. I thought, all right, let's give this a whirl. Wanted to be on a SWAT team. It was slated to go on the SWAT team in Kansas City, where I was a cop. And then, so I got on the SWAT team, the FBI, ended up in New York on the Joint Terrorist Task Force, and also tried out for the FBI's version of the Navy SEALs, which is the hostage rescue team, and didn't make it and re-injured my knee in a process. So I'm like, all right, SWAT guys globally are very much like professional athletes, which means they stay with it till they're injured too much to keep it up. Usually lower back injuries is a common thing because you run around with all that gear on.
Yep.
So I thought, well, I like crisis response. We got hostage negotiators. Let me try that. That seems easy. How hard could it be?
Right.
My son and I, we joked that there are 2 unofficial mottos of the Voss family. Number 1 is how hard could it be? And we worked after dark so much, working for my father. We used to say anything worth doing is worth doing in the dark. So, and then, how hard could it be is a naive thing to say in most cases. It's very much like the redneck phrase, famous last words of a redneck, hey, watch this. You don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Exactly right.
Looks easy.
Right, exactly. And then we're dead.
Got killed.
That's right.
Sure, I can jump off this building.
Right, exactly. Oh, wow.
But then hostage negotiation was really cool. I got into it. It really appealed to me. I had volunteered on a suicide hotline to open to get the access because I was unqualified and was told that I was unqualified. Mm-hmm. But then learned another rule that I live by that I didn't really realize it is never take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade places with. But if you ask them for advice, follow the advice.
Yep.
And then consequently, if you follow the advice, the crazy thing is, and this is better than mentors.
Yep.
Like somebody comes up to me and says, "Would you be my mentor?" Openly.
Yep.
The answer is no.
Yep.
But you're talking about, unofficially being your mentor.
Yes, sir.
Because you were implementing.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you learned and you started to implement.
That's right.
And that's what you're really looking for from somebody. So I asked for advice on how to get in the FBI. The advice that I was given made no sense to me, but I asked, and so I did it.
Yeah.
And I got in.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to be a hostage negotiator. I'd asked for advice on how to get on the hostage negotiation team. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
And some of the biggest breaks in my life have come from me asking the right person and then actually doing what they said.
Even though it didn't seem like it matched what it is you were trying to get to.
Right, exactly. It doesn't make, I don't understand. And like when I was building up the Black Swan group in the early days, I'm teaching at Georgetown in the business school, and they got me on a schedule where they've taken me off and they've doubled me down. I like to teach one class a quarter, which kept me employed year round. Mm-hmm. And one year they come back to me and we're going to double you up in the second half of the year. We're not going to give you anything in the first half of the year. I'm like, now I got an empty calendar.
Right.
So I was talking to a guy at a business club, and he said, look, you want to develop your business, come out here every morning, just go to breakfast. There's a breakfast thing here. Come out every morning. People get used to seeing you. Be leery of the people that approach you right away. But come out here steadily, and the people that matter are going to notice you. They're going to approach you. And I remember thinking, like, what good is it going to do me to show up for breakfast every morning, just sit there and eat breakfast? And what happened was this guy happened to be a very influential member of the business club. And when he saw that I followed his advice, which meant I was coachable, he then started approaching me with opportunities.
About how long was this?
He probably approached me after I'd been going to breakfast there for a month. It hadn't been that long, but he really wanted to see whether or not I was coachable.
Absolutely.
Whether or not I followed instruction from the right person.
Yeah.
And then he started throwing opportunities at me. And every single time that I took advice from the right person, it's got to be the right person. They got to know what they're talking about.
Right.
Like your mom gives you great advice.
Yep.
It's a pretty good chance your mom doesn't know what she's talking about. But she loves you.
Exactly right.
And a couple of people that I've spoken to, my mom thinks I should do this. And I'll say to them, look, your mom loves you. I understand your mother loves you. Is your mother doing that professionally? Well, no. Well, look, your mother loves you. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Go find somebody that's doing it.
Yep.
And so just because somebody loves you or because they're a friend doesn't mean you should follow their advice.
Absolutely.
So I followed advice time after time. And then I got into the negotiation unit, followed advice there, took initiative, followed guidance.
I want to, one of the most profound moments of humility in your story is you sitting down at that suicide hotline for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about following advice, right? I see everything people say, so I have a very vivid imagination. Everything you're talking about, I'm actually watching.
Oh, very
like
good.
I'm watching you work in the dark, like I'm watching your dad, delivering fuel. This is a whole movie for me. But talking about going to a country club for a month, it's a short amount of time until you realize I'm going every day of the week for 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm just having breakfast and then I'm getting up and I'm leaving because what am I even doing? But you're doing it because you're following the advice.
Right.
And then to sit down and do this suicide hotline for a year. Not like I did it for 4 weeks. I did it for 7 weeks. Because we got some people that they want advice, but they don't actually want to follow through with it
right
for as long as it's going to take to actually have the moment that they want.
Right.
They have a timer going off in their head going, I did it for 7 weeks and nothing changed. So what's the big deal? So I just think there's a lot of humility in taking someone's advice and kind of killing your ego in the process. Shout out to Derek Gaunt for Ego, Authority, and Failure.
Yeah, Derek's a great guy.
That's a very, you have to be wired a certain way to get that done.
Interesting. Yeah, probably. And I've never really thought of myself as a patient person, but it does require patience.
Yes, sir.
And like maybe it's, I don't know, leaning into the process.
Yep.
And just letting the process work for you.
Yep.
The suicide hotline thing, that was pretty easy to stay there just because it pressed two buttons for me simultaneously. It was immensely satisfying to feel like you were making a difference in people's lives. Simultaneously, what made it a little bit easier to be there is I was there to learn. So if you're there to learn, then the frustrations are learning moments as opposed to frustrations. Like on a suicide hotline, most people get burned out. Mm-hmm. The gratification is insufficient if they're not also there to learn.
Right.
Like if you just go there to be selfless, the chances that you're going to get burned out really fast are really high.
Yep.
And I actually, for a variety of reasons, I ended up teaching there.
Mm.
And at the opening class that I taught, I would say, everybody here who's here to help people, raise your hand. And then I'd say, you are in a lot of trouble because it's hard to help people.
Yeah.
And it can burn you out.
Yep.
And I knew that if their primary motivation was to help, which is a great motivation, or if their only motivation, then the chances that they were going to get burned out because their desire to help when someone won't let you help them is incredibly disheartening.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted them to be aware of that. Understand, it's a great motivation. You are incredibly vulnerable. If your desire to help is so hard because you probably need the feedback that you helped.
So it sounds like helping is hurting the person that's trying to help.
It depends upon, it could be. You're very vulnerable. If you're completely altruistic, I got to make the world a better place. And the world does get a better place, but in many cases, it's invisible, or you don't feel it right away. I mean, and there's our society, American society, and we got all the same phrases everybody has because it's all human experience.
Yep.
But everybody's heard no good deed goes unpunished. Like if you're doing good because you want immediate gratification or immediate recognition for being good, you're going to feel like you're getting punished because you ain't going to do it. But if you're willing to just make a deposit in a karma bank and let it go, then pretty soon stuff starts coming back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got through that. You get into hostage negotiation, and I mean this is wild, right? So just so everybody has context, this book is now a documentary. It's called Tactical Empathy. It's really Chris's life. It's Brandon's story as well. The entire Black Swan team and what they do and how their influence has literally impacted the world. But what can you share with us the aha moments that you were having getting to what we now know is tactical empathy, getting to what we now know is these Black Swan techniques, right? The unknown unknowns.
Well, usually like on a hotline, I can remember a couple of very specific moments because when you imagine a hotline, you imagine being on the phone with somebody who's suicidal, like for extended periods of time.
Yep.
Like hours.
Yeah. And
so at the very beginning of the training, they said, you're limited to 20 minutes. And I remember thinking, and I said, like 20 minutes? On TV, you're on the phone with people for hours.
Yeah.
And they're like, not only is that the limit, if you're doing it right, it won't take that long. And I'd be like, what do you got to be, really?
Right.
And the astute, practiced, informed application of emotional intelligence is what it was. You know, understanding the nuances, which we now know is neuroscience, but we didn't even have neuroscience then. This is the last century. I'm a last century guy.
Yeah.
And then doing it right, and people would just accelerate.
Yeah.
And I'd be on a call for having said 3 things, and I'd have a guy go like, wow, man, I'm okay now. And so seeing it work quickly was the biggest thing. And then I started trying to apply it in my personal life and seeing it begin to have some effect. Does it work every time? Nothing works every time.
Right.
It just works more than anything else does. And so then I got ready. When I finally got to the hostage negotiation training, I remember they playing tapes of actual sieges, and I thought to myself, I've been doing this for 3 years. I just didn't have a SWAT team outside.
Wow.
So then continued to apply it, you know, and epiphany moments. Probably the biggest epiphany moment on the hotline was after I'd been there for a year and I got evaluated and I was horrible. And that epiphany was that it was a perishable skill and I needed to intentionally, consciously practice. Just doing it is insufficient. You know, if Tiger Woods, if the only thing he ever did was play in tournaments, if he didn't practice all the time, he wouldn't have won any tournament.
Correct.
He practiced more than he played in tournament.
Correct.
Tiger Woods, anybody else, famous. Tiger Woods had a swing coach. He's crushing the majors.
Yep.
And he's still getting coached.
Yep.
So and then flash forward several more years, I talked my way into Harvard Law School's negotiation course.
All right, hold on. You talked your way in?
Yeah, well, you know, and ultimately, like a business card that says you're an FBI hostage negotiator is a great way to get introduced.
Yep. True.
It ain't a bad introduction.
No, it ain't.
So I decided that we need to learn from Harvard, and they got an executive education program. You pay, anybody could go. Like, as long as you aren't in jail at the time, you pay the tuition to be there for 3 days. You can go. They don't care who you are. They care if your check clears.
Yep.
And I went up there just for the express purpose. You know, learning was a secondary benefit, but I wanted to stop the head of the program as he walked by me and hand him my card and watch his reaction, which I did. Bob Mnookin, the author of a book called Beyond Winning, the second or third chapter in that is the tension between empathy and assertiveness. It's the best chapter on empathy anybody ever wrote.
Wow.
Every single person that comes into my company, we not only have them read that chapter, but we have them explain it to us.
Give me the name again.
Beyond Winning.
Beyond Winning.
Robert Mnookin, Mnookin, I think is the spelling.
Roger that.
And it's a book about negotiation for lawyers, but that chapter, the tension between empathy and assertiveness, is a cornerstone chapter of all of our training. I mean, we give it to everybody when, the way you get into my company as a negotiation coach now, I'll find a hostage negotiator, I'll give them Beyond Winning, that chapter. I'll give them the Empathy Triad from Daniel Goleman's book. I can't think of the name of it. But the chapter on the empathy triad, and also Never Split the Difference. And then we'll say, you give us a presentation on empathy based on these materials.
Wow.
And if you can understand what Mnookin wrote, what Goleman wrote, and what we wrote, then you've got your mind around it.
Wow.
And so I stopped Mnookin at the training and just handed him my business card and waited for him to react. And he was like, oh, okay. And so then we went back and forth, exchanged some ideas. And, you know, I'm willing to admit I resorted to the old style bargaining. I said, can I get 3 seats in your class? Wanting one for me.
Yep.
And he goes, well, I'll give you one. And so then I went up and I went through as a student. I wasn't a student, but they said, you gotta participate fully. You are not a tourist. You're not a fly on a wall. Mm-hmm. You're going to participate in everything. You're going to do all the writing. You're going to do all the work. You're going to do everything if you go through. And my instructors Sheila Heen, Doug Stone, co-authors of Difficult Conversations.
Oh,
Another great book.
Yeah.
At one point in time, they pulled me off to the side. They go like, you hostage negotiators, you're doing the exact same thing we are. The stakes are different.
Yep.
But all the dynamics, all the decision-making, all the principles are exactly the same. And I had hoped that was the case. But when they laid that out for me clearly, I'm like, all right, now we're on to something.
Wow. So we have a 3-day.
Thank you.
We have a 3-day and Voss water.
Oh, you know
we
what? Look at that.
Made it.
Look at these show-offs here.
We made it happen. We were relentless. We were not going to let it go.
Nice.
Chris Voss deserves Voss water. And his last name rhymes with Ross. So Voss and Ross, this was supposed to happen. I just think it was supposed to happen.
It's like the title of a movie.
I think so. Voss Ross. This summer.
Saving the world.
Voss Ross. So was a 3-day kind of thing that you went through?
The initial thing was 3 days. But
Yep.
what I want to do, find out, like their best course is a course they put on between the fall and the spring semester, which is a period of time at a lot of universities that's almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks long. You know, a lot of students in master's programs, they either go skiing or they pick up a class.
Right.
All day, every day.
Yep.
Law schools, Harvard Law Schools, and all the cluster of universities up there, the law school, the business school, Boston, MIT, they've got an agreement that you can go to classes at the other universities. Great sharing agreements. Everybody wants to go to the law school's winter negotiation course, 13 days, all day, every day, full immersion, and then you 3 hours, 4 hours of homework that night, writing up everything that you did, like total immersion into negotiation. And that's what I wanted to get into.
Yeah, for sure.
The winter course. So I get up there and go through the winter course.
Yep.
And then, you know, I'm going toe to toe and learning, and it was an incredible experience, and getting coached. And, you know, among the many things that I had tremendous regard for the program, and Mnookin in particular, like they had one exercise that was designed to tempt the law school students to lie. And and then they spent an entire day on that exercise and out briefing it. And I was horrified and gratified. Because for hostage negotiation, lying is a bad thing. Lying is a really bad idea. If you really understand hostage negotiation, you don't lie.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons. It's a trap. They're going to figure it out. You're going to pay for it. There's no good outcome from lying.
Right.
So I show up there on the premise that lying is bad. So I'm really gratified that they want to drill that into the students, but I'm horrified that they have to. Like, and tremendous arguments in the outbrief. Well, you know, fight for your clients, this and that. And Mnookin was adamant. He's like, lying over material fact and simply failing to mention it is lying. It's deception by omission. He says that's fundamentally unethical. And he was adamant that they at least take away that was Harvard's position. Material omissions, as an omission of a material fact, is fundamentally unethical and in violation of your oath as attorneys. And I was really impressed that he had to drill that in, and then I was frightened at how many students just didn't want to accept it. Wow. And I thought, these are the biggest minds. This is the law school on earth. And how many students that are going through here just fundamentally have to grapple with this instead of getting it right away. But, you know, Bob wouldn't let him go.
Yep.
Till he made his point.
Absolutely. Well, this is blowing my mind, because I'm just thinking about how that can be applied to everyday life.
Yeah.
Right? That if we lived our lives in a way that said lying is not a part of my entire existence. That even the omission of something is not how I govern my life. How we would have a pure environment if that was everybody's mentality, right? We wouldn't be surprised and like, I didn't even know you thought that, or I didn't know this is the way you thought about this, or you never told me that when we closed this deal. Or so, I mean, it is the fact that had to be taught. I agree with you, man. No, that's kind of shocking that, hey, we got to teach you not to lie and give you the importance of why lying. But then to see how reticent, it's not like you said a couple of guys. The majority of the people were like,
I wouldn't say it was a majority, but there was enough of them. It was definitely a minority, but they were adamant.
Yep. They were trying to even fight for the position. And
the other thing that Bob was really making a point on is, deception by omission. And a lot of people want to say like, well, if what I said was, if I didn't lie. Like we had an informant one time that says, I told you I would never lie, but I never promised to tell you the whole truth. And we were like, no, that ain't the answer.
That ain't it.
Leaving stuff out is not the answer.
Yeah.
And the other thing about lying too, because I think it's an important thing to discuss, because we think about it as inherently malicious or an evil act. Mm-hmm. And a vast majority of lying is defensive in nature. People don't know how to tell the truth. Well, they're scared of the consequences. And that's one of the things really in tactical empathy that we want people to get comfortable with. Okay, if you're scared to say it, then that just means two things. You should say it, and you should say it carefully. And here's how you say it carefully. Here's how you soften a blow. Mm-hmm. Human beings are incredibly collaborative and incredibly resilient. Mm-hmm. My co-author, Tal Raz, our co-author, me and Brandon and Tal really wrote the book together. Tal used to say, human beings are hardwired to collaborate because the only cavemen that survived were the ones that collaborated.
That's right.
The dude that wanted to go out on his own, got eaten by the saber-toothed tiger in the middle of the night because he wasn't with a group.
That's right.
So we're hardwired to collaborate to start with, and then we're remarkably resilient. Like if I got something I'm scared to tell you, I should say, you are not going to want to hear this. This is bad news. Instead of, I don't want you to think this is bad news. 2 millimeter shift. Mm-hmm. The denial is the poor way to do it. The calling the elephant out in the room is a good way to do it.
That's right.
And we do that with each other.
Yeah.
Like I get a call from one of my colleagues the other day. He's like, look, man, I've been praying about this. And I'm thinking like, you're going to quit. And there was another issue, but because he warned me that it was so significant that he struggled with it that much, I immediately thought the worst. And then when he gave me the actual news, it was relieved. Like, I can fix this.
Right.
This is easy.
Yeah.
So, but human beings properly warned. It's, I'm reading a study not that long ago, way into neuroscience, human performance these days. Huge fan of Andrew Huberman. Some of the best information out there on human performance and neuroscience. One of his podcasts he's talking, I think it was Huberman's. He said, like, if a doctor gives you a shot, if the doctor says, this isn't going to hurt, I don't want you to think it's going to hurt, and he jabs you with the needle, you're like, hey, doc, you're an idiot.
Exactly. You don't even know what needles feel like.
I'm on my way out the door. You lied to me.
That's exactly right.
But if the doc says, this is going to hurt, and then he jabs you, and you go like, it wasn't that bad. The proper warning in advance, human beings, and the pain centers from physical pain and emotional pain in the brain are pretty much the same regions. So we react in many ways to physical pain the same way we react to emotional pain. So if I get bad news, we teach people that. If they're not going to like it, tell them they're not going to like it.
Yep.
If you're afraid that it's going to break their hearts, say, this is going to break your heart. I got bad news. And give them anywhere from 1 to 3 seconds, let them brace themselves, hit them with it. And every single time, it's either as bad as they thought it was going to be, which means they were ready, or nowhere near as bad as they thought it was going to be, which means I can solve this right now.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. The documentary, Tactical Empathy.
Mm-hmm.
First time we screen it in Vegas. Nick Nanton, Emmy-winning producer, DNA Films, great human being, and great company. We see it in Vegas, and everybody likes it. And I tell them that. Love it, fantastic. Everybody had a great time. Love it. Now, we got the LA screening that you came to.
Yep.
We got the LA screening set up for a month later.
Mm-hmm.
On the Sunday after I told him 3 days earlier that I loved it, I realized there was a huge flaw that I had to fix. Because we left somebody out that was a critical part of our story and our journey. On a Sunday, now with the clock's ticking already, I send Nick a 2-line text. It's now a bad time to talk. You're not going to like what I have to say. Because it's now a bad time to talk. I could have called him.
Right.
He would have took the call.
Right.
But a text message, because I need his undivided attention and I need him to be braced for bad news because clock's ticking. We got no time.
Yep.
So as it turns out, text message comes right back. I'm in the middle of a Zoom call, which meant it would have been a bad time. And if I'd have called him, he would have answered. It would have interrupted. Both conversations would have been bad. So I need his undivided attention. And I also need him to know that I get bad news. And I lay out to him what the problem is, and he immediately problem solves. He says, all right, we're going to do this, this, and this. I got to get a camera crew out there, or I got to get that person to a camera crew, one way or another. But this is how I'll do it. I mean, he's instantly problem solving on a Sunday afternoon, 3 days after I told him everything was fine. And he lays it all out and goes, done. He says, and we got less than 3 weeks. So we got an hour of film, but an hour of film is almost 3 weeks of editing. So, but we'll get it done. We'll get it in under the wire. Done. Finished. Over. And then afterwards, not as a condition, but I'm very much into reciprocity and returning favors for people who've done big favors for me. I still owe Nick Nanton in a big way. He says, very next day, I got a group of investors together. I'd love for you to come and talk to them. You got it. Rearranged all my flight schedules. I was supposed to be in Chicago, leave for Chicago the next day. I'm like, all right, I'll talk. We got to do it by this time. I got to get on a plane. I called my assistants, change all my flights. You might not make it. Doesn't matter. I got to be there for Nick because Nick has been there for me. Yeah. This all sprung from a conversation that once we got on the phone was less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
To solve a monumental problem that was going to cost him a lot of money. But because we got a great relationship and of generosity back and forth, bang, we hit it.
So thank you for sharing that. That is a great context of applying the techniques that you write in the book in like a very practical way. This is one of the things about the book, Chris, that I rave about to everybody, because I'm low key an evangelist for you. Like, I tell everybody. I really do.
Does he do anything low key?
No. No. Well, I guess it's high key then. I don't know. I'm using a phrase, and I guess
I'm a subtle guy.
Well, honestly,
those glasses, right? I mean, stylish. You're very definitely out there.
What actually happened yesterday, someone noticed you because of your glasses.
True.
So I don't think you are low key, bro.
Okay, you're right. All right, I've been exposed. I am not low key. It is official. I'm not low key. Okay, but I am an evangelist of this book and of your paradigm of thought because it works.
It works.
Everyday conversations. It works. Conversations with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your children. My boys are 14 and 12. I have never asked them a question trying to get a yes. Ever.
Nice.
Whether it's to clean their room or to negotiate for them to play their games. I am using a label. I am using a mirror. I am using dynamic silence. I am going through what I have learned. I've known this about you, but even hearing you talk, this is something that I've picked up on. You are an avid learner.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because you're not a PhD.
No. Thank God.
Like, and I only have a high school diploma. Like, I'm blessed, right? But it's a work ethic thing that I have where it's like, where if I want to know it, there's another way to get it.
Yeah.
Without me spending $450,000, right? And having student loans. But even at your age and stage, after this much success, I still hear the learner.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's fun for me learning that I could apply. I love learning.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend and I, Wendy, we end up watching TV in the evenings. My only regret about that is we only watch TV because I'm tired from learning all day. There's only so much information you could take in. I got to find a way to relax.
Yep.
But I love learning. I like that. Andrew Huberman is a great guy.
Yeah.
But I listen to his podcast because there's so much information there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what among the things that make the podcast values is high level of integrity.
Yeah.
So you could trust the information.
Yep.
But anybody that I could learn
Writing
from,
that down, Andrew Huberman.
yeah. I mean, it's good stuff, and I'll learn from anybody.
Yeah.
And if I can apply it, if I can make my life better, if I can have a positive impact with it, to me, it's fun.
Absolutely.
Like there are all sorts of life hacks.
Yeah. Well, your book is a life hack. So I got to let me testify. Okay. So I've been married to Juliet. This year will be 24 years.
Wow, good for you.
Thanks. So if God keeps me, Juliet, my mom and dad healthy, my parents celebrate 49 years in May.
Wow.
We celebrate 24 years in May. So if we're all alive next year, on their 50th and our 25th, we're renewing our vows together.
Holy cow.
I think it's going to be sweet.
That's cool.
So, around year 20, yeah, it had to be. Yeah, it was around. Yeah, it was 20 or 21. Yeah, because we're 24 now. I read the book in 99. Yeah, that was year 20 for us. So this is year 21. I read the book. I fly out to San Diego. I do 2 days in San Diego with your team. I got to tell y'all this, all right? So there's 4 tables. I think there's about 40 people in this particular class.
Right.
And they go to each table and they do 60 seconds or she dies. Only the alums of Black Swan, the people that have gone through the course or been exposed to it or seen Chris on TED Talk or YouTube or whatever, 60 seconds or she dies is one of the most stress-inducing hypothetical scenarios you could ever be in, right? So they're about to do it, right? It's day 1. You've warmed us up, and now you're about to throw us into the deep end of the pool. And there's 4 tables, 10 at each table. And I'm at the 3rd table. I'm at the 3rd or 4th tables. And Derek Gaunt is the one going around doing 60 seconds or she dies. Derek Gaunt can be one of the most intimidating people.
Yeah, he can.
If he drains the blood from his face, it'll look like he's staring through your soul, right? So he goes to, so people are raising their hands. They're like, pick me. I want to do it, right? I'm over here like, I'm not volunteering for this. I'm here to take notes. Goes to table 1, table 2, he gets to my table. He's with the mic. There's 4 people raising their hands at the table of 10. There's 4 people raising their hands. He acts like he's walking to them, does a spin, and hands me the mic. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Why are we doing this? And he goes, when you're ready, say ring, ring. And I was like, ring, ring. 60 seconds or she dies. And I'm telling you, I go from regular blood pressure to a skyrocket. This is a hypothetical.
Sitting still, right?
Sitting still.
This is the crazy thing about the brain.
That's exactly right. I'm sitting still. I haven't ran a sprint. I'm not asked to run on the other side of this is a phone call. Hypothetical. Like, you've done it for real. I can't even imagine the stress. I know what it felt like hypothetically. And this is what you all have done as a career, right? So I go through the scenario, and it is baptism by fire. I think I keep them on the line 3.5 minutes, which is miraculous.
Oh, it's a long time. You did really
miraculous.
Well. Yeah.
So and actually, I'm the one that ended it because I was so fatigued after 3.5 minutes. I literally said, while still supposedly to being in character, "When is this over?" Then everybody kind of laughed and we broke.
By the way, you get north of 2 minutes on that. You've done really well.
Yes, sir.
So for you doing 3.5 minutes, that's really good.
Thank you. I knew I couldn't promise them that they were going to get out of it. You know, y'all gave us the parameters,
right?
But it was a dynamic exercise to go through. But one of the things that we talked about, and this was on day 2, was the accusations audit, which I failed miserably. The team put me as lead, and I got cooked, and Derek destroyed. I mean, my ego was decimated by this exercise. But I walked away with my tail tucked between my legs thinking, I have to listen more. Like, I was humbled in a way that I've never been humbled.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And so over that exercise over the next year, and some conversations I was having with Juliet, made me realize that there were things Juliet had been saying about me that I never acknowledged. I apologized for it or whatever, but I never actually acknowledged it. So one night, we are in a hotel room, and this was spontaneous. It wasn't like I thought about this. But I wind up running through an accusations audit of everything I've heard her say or think she has felt about me.
Right.
For the last 21 years.
Negative, every bad thing.
Every bad
this
thing.
Is embracing the bad stuff.
That's exactly right. And it lasts about 4.5 minutes.
Wow.
I go really slow. I'm really careful and intentional to name these things. To literally say, I know that I have been arrogant. I have been prideful. I have not listened to you. You probably think that I am the most selfish guy on the planet, that I have this public persona that doesn't match this private life. And man, I get through this whole thing. And that girl looked at me almost with shock and said, that's exactly right.
Wow.
It was one of the most humbling moments in my entire, we've done marriage counseling, all this kind of stuff. But after that accusations audit, we have had the most incredible marriage communicatively since that night. And I got those principles from Never Split the Difference. So I owe God and you a thank you, man. Because like I told you before we started, Chris, I metabolized that book.
Yeah.
There is no part of my life where Never Split the Difference does not manifest. Whether I'm asking for a late checkout, I'm asking these guys what to do. I'm always going, hey, would it be bad if we met on the 13th? It's and my wife, she knows I'm doing it. And
right.
she goes, you're doing the thing to me again. She just calls it the thing. You're doing the thing to me again. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the thing because it's really hard. You would have to be a very nefarious person to use these skills for bad, right? Like they're wired for you to use it for good. Right? We already talked about it. At the core and the epicenter of what we're doing here, we're literally trying to get people to live with integrity, right?
Right.
A life without lies. But man, you are the one that was bold enough to put this on paper and give everybody else an opportunity to use it in their lives. And it's all right. Okay. Last thing, and then I'll shut up on this. I don't know if you've read the book, The Medici Effect.
Sounds interesting.
Yes. So the nutshell of the book is that the most creative and innovative ideas happen at the intersection of two different career fields.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I was even thinking about this earlier when you were talking, because the FBI negotiator goes to Harvard Business School, and his interest is piqued in how are y'all doing negotiation over here, and the cross-pollination of that is how we got to tactical empathy. It wasn't like I just kept doing the FBI thing, which is what we call a directional movement,
right,
as opposed to an intersectional movement, which is a cross-pollination with another field. So now you're being called to go all over the world. I mean, corporations, Dubai. I mean, when I think about you doing, a presentation in Dubai, I'm going, this is not, this ain't normal. So the cross-pollination is something that I feel like is what put you out here. It's because the learner in you put you at an intersection.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And the willingness to apply ideas from one's place into another.
Yeah.
Or, and it's incredibly arrogant to make the comparison, but the Wright brothers built bicycles. Yeah, they make airplanes. They built bicycles, or they didn't do anything aerodynamically. They built bicycles. So I think when you come from outside of a system and then you try to apply new ideas into a system, you're probably far more focused on what actually works.
Yep.
As opposed to the biases that the system has.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's and being a learner and being what I consider to be both mercenary and missionary. Mercenaries, does it work? Missionaries, is it good? Mm-hmm. Does it actually benefit people? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't sacrifice one for the other. You can find stuff that works. This works effectively, and you're doing good for people.
Yep.
This does good for people, and it's extremely effective.
Yep.
You can use tactical empathy for malicious intent, but it's a short fuse, because what you were talking about with your wife, it's one thing to utter empathy, but then you gotta live it.
That's right.
Also.
That's right.
And so you can utter it and have it be tremendously effective in the moment, but if you don't walk the talk afterwards,
correct,
then they stop paying attention to the talk.
That's correct.
It's effective talk, but you got to walk the talk.
Absolutely correct. And to that point, that accusations audit and our subsequent connection, deeper connection, was because there was a change that was happening in me. I don't think I could have done that accusations audit a month earlier, a year earlier, 5 years earlier. So to your point, don't go through this book going, yeah, I'm going to fling out these tools, and you're not even about that life. Because nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change at all.
And you're going to get much farther. Like, people are afraid of change because they're afraid of losing. And so, which means, like, if I make the change, I'm going to be worse off. Like, if I'm a nicer guy, I'm going to be worse off. I'm not going to get as much. One of the guys that we just had a very special training session of high level people that we did last year, first time ever. We're going to do it again this coming year. All heads of companies, entrepreneurs, not corporations, entrepreneurs. And one guy, not the stereotypical negotiator. Most people think the stereotype of negotiator is loud and aggressive, like super quiet dude, super quiet. not loud, not overly aggressive at all. Extremely competitive.
Yep.
Difference between being competitive and aggressive.
Yep.
And so I did a follow-on interview because a guy blew me away.
Yeah.
And he said, I have made so much more money being collaborative than I ever made by being cutthroat.
Wow.
Like you guys have made an $800,000 difference this year by making us more collaborative, and we never had jumps like that before when we were cutthroat. So that's very counterintuitive because people think like, well, I'll have more empathy. If I'm more collaborative, that means I got to give up bigger pieces of the pie. Why should I expand the pie if I'm not going to get a bigger piece?
Yep.
And people who get collaborative at the end of the year, they're like, I put more money in my bank account this year than any of the preceding years.
Exactly.
So it enriches you to be more giving.
Absolutely. This is true. All right. So I got to go back to the 2-day intensive, right? So the first day, we actually have to do an exercise with a group, a team, collaborating with other teams.
Yeah.
And, we got to make a deal, right? That's going to be amicable for everybody, right? And nobody won. I don't remember one team winning or the two teams that they were working with each other, collaborating and winning, because everybody was suspicious of each other.
Right.
Everybody was like, no, you're trying to get over. You're trying to make us take 20% of this, and you're trying to get 80% of that. And we couldn't get out of our own way. We were, and this is the thing about me. Like, I'll tell you one thing that's very, very humbling is to read the book, to actually go to a live event with Chris and the team, and think that because you read the book, you know what you're doing. It's only when you get in that, you do know to a certain extent the principles, but when you get put in these environments that are stress inducing, you realize, man, the selfishness is right at the surface. I haven't killed my ego yet. I actually want to win. And that's what happens a lot of times when people don't want to change,
right,
is they think that by me changing, you're winning and I'm losing.
Change means loss.
Yeah, change means loss. And so I really appreciate you kind of giving us a context of that, because it's a game changer. It's a game changer. So what is next for you? I don't want to assume this. When I was at the premiere, you're a very unassuming guy. Like you don't have yellow glasses, right? So you're low key. But there's a strength and an authority and an expertise that you have that you continue to hone. But it felt like you were passing the baton. It felt like you talked more about Brandon than you did yourself, and I'm like, what am I experiencing right now? What am I actually seeing? So what is next for you? Are you trying to step out of the way, or are you looking to do other things, or?
Well, both. I mean, it's really more about the team.
Yep.
You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go as a team.
That's right.
We're gonna reach more people. The more we raise the visibility of Brandon, of Derek, of Troy, of Sandy. The more we raise their visibility, and the more people become confident that it's the Black Swan Group and not Chris Voss.
Yeah.
So more of expanding our reach through those guys. Like, everybody on my team is ultimately going to write a book.
Great.
Or collaborate on a couple of books.
Great.
Sandy is getting ready to get started on a project of Empathy, the Great Equalizer. The subtitle is Empowering Women. And she's like, well, this can be for everybody, but we're going to focus it on women.
Fantastic.
But it'd be for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
So raising up the level of everybody else. Brandon is going to be our only official licensee. He needs to run his own operation. He doesn't like answering to anybody any more than I do.
Right. Like father, like son.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's gonna develop a lot more stuff on his own. And then it's the full circle stuff, some global opportunities besides business. I've gotten more and more involved with an an organization called Global Citizen Forum, which is, for lack of a better term, peace through prosperity. You know, there will be less conflict in the world the more prosperity there is. So how do we get people to see in the developing world that collaboration is the key to prosperity and peace simultaneously, spreading wealth around? And that a lot of that has been based out of the UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, because that's a country that's built on collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they got a government that realized that the more they spread the wealth among their citizens, the safer place it will be. It's a very pro-business environment. And they set a great model for that part of the world, and they walk the talk. So the organizations that I'm getting involved with there, people from Africa, all parts of the developing world are coming there, and they're saying, like, government is really the referee, but the business sector, an ethical business sector, is where prosperity comes from. Raise everybody's standard of living.
I gotta take a note on that. An ethical business.
There's a lot of unethical business.
Yes, that's for sure.
But there's enough ethical business to actually make a difference in the world.
Yes, sir.
To do well. And are your business leaders going to be perfect? Or no? Are they going to have egos? Yes. They're going to make mistakes.
Yep.
But you know, like I'm an Elon Musk fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been at Starlink.
Yeah.
You know, Starlink is a wonderful place. Like, they're changing the course of mankind there.
Yeah.
They are working their tails off. Like, if you work for Elon Musk, you're working hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And the people that are at Starlink, they're torn because they know they're changing the future of mankind. And they're there 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this whole hullabaloo about people having to work at Twitter, you know, and they're sleeping in their offices. They've been doing that at Starlink for a long time.
Right. Right, exactly.
Those guys that's testing Starlink are going, welcome to my world.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to make a difference on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, really make a difference.
Yep.
It ain't 9 to 5 with long lunch breaks.
That's facts.
And long coffee breaks in the afternoon.
Yep.
Like, you're going to have to dig in and get it done.
Yep.
And I find those organizations and their leadership to be very ethical.
Yeah.
Are they perfect? No.
Yeah.
You know, is Elon want everybody to work as hard as he does? You know, he's one of those guys like my father.
Yeah.
Never ask you to do something he wouldn't do himself. And there ain't nothing he wouldn't do.
That's right.
So you bring your A game and your hard working game if you come to work there, because we're not playing ping pong over lunch.
That's right. That's right.
So, and that's what's going to change the world.
Yeah.
Now, in the meantime, we need governments to be the referee.
That's right.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
The governments are the referee. They're not there to make your life better. They're there to minimize the harm that comes to you as much as possible.
Yep.
But they're not there to make your life better.
That's right. That's good. That's you know, I see everything in pictures, so I'm thinking about the guys that can make a living playing basketball are the guys that know how to dribble inbounds and stop when the whistle blows.
Interesting. Exactly.
It's the bottom line. And now talk about ethical. To take it a step further, it would also be the guys that when they commit a foul, they know it and raise their hand and go, "That was me."
Yeah.
Ref doesn't even have to blow the whistle. The dude scored 14 points on me in a row. I just karate chopped him in the throat.
Yeah.
That wasn't an accident. I know I fouled the dude. You know what I mean? It was probably a flagrant too.
And then they're going to get the benefit of the doubt.
That's exactly right.
Like, the referee sees him as an honest guy with a lot of integrity. The referee's trying to make up his mind, you know, or is this a guy who's whining and complaining like crybaby, or is this a guy who's owning up to it?
That's right.
That guy or gal, depending upon the case, going to get the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely. So I own a Tesla, and I just want to say salute to everybody that stays up and sleeps in their office, because I left the gym 2 days ago. I finally got full service driving downloaded on my car, and it drove me home from the gym.
Nice. Wow.
The car drove me home from the gym. It turned street corners. It stopped at red lights. It stopped at stop signs. It made left turns and blinker. It actually negotiated around a car that wasn't moving fast enough, and it drove straight up to my house. That's not going to happen playing ping pong in the afternoon.
No, man.
In the same way, your marriage is not going to get fixed and you won't actually put in the work. Or your company's going to grow and you do it for 4 hours a day.
Right.
Right? Like, I mean, without a work ethic, none of this is going to make a difference.
Right.
But I'm celebrating the legacy that you're leaving and the doors that you are opening for others. Because that's what you're doing, Chris.
Yeah,
You're opening up doors for others. You're opening up doors for women. Sandy's a beast.
Yeah, Sandy's cool.
And in this field, it would be very, very easy for it to just be the good old boys club.
Yep.
So to empower her, give her a voice. Now she's coming out with a book to give the next generation. I mean, you're writing several blueprints at the same time. Brandon, your son, is taking over the company. He's young. He's full of vigor, strength, ideas, creativity. And you're going, you got full reign. I didn't want nobody telling me what to do. Ain't nobody going to be telling you what to do. Handle your business, you know. As if I haven't learned enough for you. I just think even sitting here with you, I'm learning even more. Thank you so much, man. No, honestly, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. And I really feel like if my contribution and our audience would take this man's ideation, his love for learning, and seeing what it has parlayed into, you're going to Google Chris Voss, and I'm not going to have to say anything else. If you've never heard of him up until this time, you're welcome. That's all I can say. But thank you for helping us grow.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful to be able to help people.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's meant a lot for you to be here. And I don't have a bucket list, but if I did, this would be on it. Chris Voss, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And may we never split the difference. I love y'all. Peace.